Abandoned promises, expensive additions, bizarre decisions. So Disney, what's up with these really bad choices? Today we are exposing Disney World's worst changes and showing you how you're going to have a great trip anyway. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. So while most Disney World changes do have their, general pros and cons, there are some that are really beloved or really hated. Today we're talking about the latter, addressing the worst changes Disney World has made, either in the past or recently that we're just not huge fans of. Regardless of our feelings about these changes, though, we're still going to walk you through how you can make the most out of your trip despite how you may feel about these head-scratching decisions, too. And always, before we get started, I've got some free Disney World planning worksheets for you. So if you're new to the channel, if you're new to Disney World, or even you're just in love with organization, go ahead and scan the QR code you see on the screen now, or head to disneyfoodblog.com/disneyplans, and we'll send you the free digital guide filled with quick tips, planning timelines, packing lists, and more. We're going to start today with Epcot's forgotten projects. So Epcot's major transformation has been years in the making, but everything that was originally announced for this massive park overhaul didn't wind up making the final cut, for now at least. Take the Festival Pavilion, for instance. Originally, this hub was going to be a futuristic-looking 3-story building that included a plaza level, a middle expo level, and a park in the sky on the top with fireworks viewing. Very swanky. But later on, the pavilion was rebranded in a Disney press release as a festival area, which seemed to indicate that the 3-story building concept had been scrapped. In early 2022, we were introduced to the new festival area plans, Communicore Hall and Communicore Plaza, and this is what Disney has stuck with going forward. I like to consider this change as the deconstructed version of what Epcot was originally planning on doing all along. We still have pretty much all the pieces and parts that were announced, a garden and park area, not in the sky, an expo building, and a plaza that hosts concerts and events, but just not kept in a 3-story building. While the festival area is definitely a permanent change, there are a few other new attraction ideas that are in this Schrodinger's cat-like state. While they could still be built in the future, they could also be completely canceled. Either way, Disney's more than likely hoping we forget about them completely, because even if they do decide to go forward with these ideas again in the future, they're probably going to change significantly. So what are these mysterious Epcot projects being kept in limbo? Well, that Mary Poppins attraction, that was set to be built in the United Kingdom Pavilion within the World Showcase. This experience was going to allow guests to step in time down Cherry Tree Lane past Admiral Boom's house, then enter number 17, home of the Banks family. After the 2020 closures, Disney released a statement noting that they needed to reevaluate some of their long-term project plans. So the decision was made to postpone development of the Mary Poppins attraction. Along with postponing Mary, a Spaceship Earth refurbishment was also shelved indefinitely, which, to be honest, I'm perfectly okay with because I love Spaceship Earth as it is. But the refurbishment was announced back in 2019, and Disney shared that it would bring a new narration, new story, even new scenes to the attraction. There would have been a focus on storytelling, a magic story light to follow, whatever that is, and other much-needed updates that further give this classic ride some good TLC. The ride was all set to close in 2020 to prepare for these changes, but once again, the COVID-19 pandemic turned Disney's original plans on their head. In July that same year, Epcot reopened Spaceship Earth in its existing form, and it's been the Judi Dench version ever since. Another part of Epcot's historic transformation was going to be the Play Pavilion, an area in the previous Wonders of Life Pavilion that would offer ways to interact and play in a digital metropolis with games, experiences, entertainment, and characters. Alas, in January 2023, the Epcot map removed the previous Future Home of Play label, and we haven't heard anything about it since. In fact, I was in the Space 220 Stellavator with a family once, and they were asking the cast member, what's that big gold thing over there that Disney's just sort of nothing happening here, you don't see anything. So I kind of explained what the history was of that particular pavilion and what they said it could be, but it's probably not gonna be. I would love to see inside there and see what they've done so far. Wouldn't that be cool? Alas. And finally, the China Pavilion was set to receive a new film called Wondrous China, but the debut of the film was delayed as well. Since then, Disney's remained suspiciously quiet on when or if we can expect it to debut in the World Showcase. Now, it can be frustrating to get all excited about certain projects only to see Disney shelve them till the foreseeable future, but trust me on this. Disney is not happy about these postponed projects either. Just to get to the point where Disney can actually announce a project to the public takes a whole lot of planning and preparation on their part. So when they can't fulfill those promises for their fans, it's a big hit toward them, their ego, and their budget. That being said, these setbacks haven't kept Imagineers from creating a whole lot of other new stuff for us to enjoy in Epcot these past few years. We have seen a lot of projects actually open up in this park lately, including the updated flagship store creation shop opened in September 2021, RIP Mouse Gears, and Remy's Ratatouille Adventure opened in October 2021. The backwards launch coaster, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, opened in May 2022. The walkthrough attraction, Journey of Water, inspired by Moana, 2023. The World Celebration Gardens also opened in 2023 in December, a couple months after Moana. The new nighttime spectacular Luminous Symphony of Us was December 2023 too. And tons of restaurants like Space 220, Crêperie de Paris, and its quick service next door that I can't ever say the name of, Shiki Sai, and the Connections Cafe and Eatery. While it's easy to immediately point fingers and say Epcot's been cutting corners with all these dropped projects, Imagineers have been hard at work these past few years to transform the park in a lot of different immersive and impactful ways. So we're going to cut them some slack for now, but we're still going to be listening for any updates that may bubble up about one of those shelved projects, because we're not giving up hope on Mary Poppins that easily. Now, this next one really makes me sad. My hope is that one day I can talk about Be Our Guest restaurant over in Magic Kingdom again without sounding like I'm apologizing for it, because I am apologizing for it. More specifically, I'm apologizing for what happened to the lunch menu. When Be Our Guest first opened in 2012, the restaurant was well regarded as one of the most stunning, immersive restaurants in Disney history. And you know what? It still is. But back in the day, this restaurant served a counter service or fast casual breakfast and lunch, and it only switched over to a more sophisticated sit-down expensive meal for dinner. Despite the fact that this spot only served counter service meals in the morning and midday, guests still had to make advanced dining reservations for this place. It was that popular. Yep, it was a different world back then. The food was tasty and the meal felt like a great value considering the stunning setting and the overall popularity. Like, everything on the lunch menu was good and it was cheap. Unfortunately, Disney decided to really change things up. While the table service dinner at Be Our Guest restaurant used to offer an a la carte menu, the tables turned in July 2018. Suddenly, dinner became prix-fixe. It's a 3-course affair now, and you're going to pay for the whole thing. And that prix-fixe menu bled into lunchtime too. After the 2020 closures, instead of just paying, $8 to $15 on a lunch here, you're going to have to pay $70 per adult, whether you choose to dine during dinner or lunch. And while Disney toyed with the idea of bringing back some breakfast or brunchy items there for a while, the breakfast option has completely disappeared for now. Thanks to that $70 per person price tag, guests are now expecting some real quality food here, as they should. But unfortunately, many feel that the atmosphere is still the best part of the whole dining experience, with the food just being sort of mid. So here's the good thing about all this if you're looking for some sort of silver lining, which we always are here at DFB. If you're wanting to dine at Be Our Guest, at least to see that gorgeous theming once in your life, it's not as hard to get a reservation here as it used to be. Sometimes we're even able to find reservations the day of our visit, though I'd still recommend making those ADRs if this is a big priority restaurant for you. You're just going to have to save the big bucks for it. If you're looking for some cheaper Beauty and the Beast themed dining experiences, I've got a couple of solid alternatives for you though. First, you may want to check out Gaston's Tavern. That's only a few steps away from Be Our Guest. While you're not going to find a giant menu of options here, the items they do have are really good and affordable, like their ham, cheese, and provolone sandwich. That's a favorite of some folks on our team. Their giant warm cinnamon rolls and their gray stuff cupcake. It's great to be able to get the gray stuff without having to fight for it in the restaurant. Plus, this place is themed around the tavern where that famous Gaston musical number takes place in the movie, so you can still revel in your love of Beauty and the Beast and some really incredible theming without paying $70 to do so. For a more elegant dining experience that's still Beauty and the Beast themed, step out of Magic Kingdom for a bit and walk over to Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa. You can go to the Enchanted Rose Lounge. While Be Our Guest and Gaston's Tavern are more themed around the cartoon version of this classic tale, Enchanted Rose is decorated with a live-action film in mind, meaning you'll see lots of Baroque and sophisticated decor with little Easter eggs scattered throughout, highlighting your favorite characters. Yep, you're going to find Mrs. Potts, you're going to find Lumiere, you're going to find Cogsworth. Lots of cool little hidden gems in there. The bites and drinks are not cheap here by any means, but they are a la carte, so you don't have to pay a whole lot of money for more items than you want to eat. A few of our favorite things to pick up here are the truffle fries made with black truffle, aged Parmesan, truffle aioli. I love an aioli. The seasonal flatbreads, and the lavender fog cocktail. Note, the appetizers are only served here in the evening between 5 and 10 p.m. And you remember this originally opened, it had those cool love and envy drinks that are made tableside? Yeah, they don't have those anymore, sadly. Now, how about the missing freebies? Okay, if you've already been following this channel for any amount of time, then you've probably already heard me singing the blues about the missing free stuff we used to get at Disney World. But let me give you a rapid fire list of all those missing freebies right now, just so you can be as sad as I am. Currently, we no longer have free package delivery, where merchandise items could be delivered back to our Disney hotels for us. We don't even have paid package delivery. You gotta carry your stuff with you everywhere now. The free Disney's Magical Express, which would take you from the Orlando airport to your hotel and back again. Free fast passes, because we've got the Premium Genie Plus service now to help us bypass those ride lines. Free basic magic bands for all Disney Resort guests. Yep, those are gone. And free extra magic hours for all resort guests. These are now split into two different types of benefits, with the extended evening hours benefit only available for deluxe resort guests. So it is free to go in the parks in the morning for hotel guests, but not in the evenings. Hurts to hear that all at once, huh? Well, back in 2020, we also lost free resort parking there for a little while, but resort guests got their free parking back at the beginning of 2022. So basically Disney was like, hey, we did this crummy thing, and now you should be super happy we stopped doing this crummy thing. Which, don't get me wrong, we are happy, but the fact that it happened at all was kind of gross. All right, good news time. Disney hasn't gotten rid of all their free stuff. There's still quite a few things you won't have to pay extra for while you're on property, including free transportation around the Disney bubble, visiting the Disney Springs shopping district. It's free to go. It's not free to buy anything there. Getting a celebration pin, which could lead to some more freebie surprises later on in your visit. Having your luggage transferred. If you're changing Disney hotels during your visit, they will move your luggage to your next hotel for free. Movies under the stars each evening at the Disney hotels. Free entry for kids who are under the age of 3. Single rider lines are currently free to use. The free version of the Disney Genie app, which will help you keep track of your plans for the day. Wi-Fi is free. Cups of water are free. And there's some more stuff. We've got a whole video about it. And no, I'm not trying to throw you a red herring here to say we shouldn't be put off by the premium stuff that used to be free simply because free stuff still exists. Because the price of a Disney trip is still unbelievably expensive, and having to pay for extras on top of what you're already paying for your flight, your room, your tickets, and your food is overwhelming. But fortunately, you don't have to pay for a lot of these extras if you don't want to, or you don't think you're going to need them. Discuss the options with your family ahead of time to see which newly premium services may require you to budget a little extra, and which are better left skipped. Ah, yes, we've made it to price increases. Think of this as a part 2 of what we were just talking about. While some Disney price spikes can be avoided, you can't avoid them all. Increases affect the merchandise, snacks, restaurant menus, even the tickets and hotel prices. And to make matters worse, Disney does its best to drop those increases in the most inconspicuous ways, hoping they can do so without you noticing anything. So whenever they can, Disney tries to only increase things by a few dollars at a time, so it's not as noticeable. One of the exceptions to this typical sneaky strategy was when Disney introduced its new annual pass program after annual passes had been MIA since 2020. Before the closures, the most expensive annual pass option cost around $894. But when the APs returned, a new 4-tier system was introduced, with each tier holding a certain number of blockout days and park pass reservations that you could hold at a single time. While Florida residents can have their choice of any of 4 AP options, including the cheapest Pixie Dust Pass with more blockout dates and fewer park pass reservations at $439 per person, the only AP ticket option for out-of-state residents is the most expensive one, IncrediPass, with no blockout days and more park pass reservations. Now, it cost $1,119 per person when it first went live, and it now costs a whopping $1,449 per person. Considering formerly the highest tier annual pass used to be around $749 to $829, this has been quite the jump for guests. It's an especially big jump considering IncrediPasses can't even be paid off over time. You gotta pay the whole thing dining right then and there if you want one. Disney also tends to rely on surge pricing to justify why certain prices fluctuate throughout the year. This is why theme park tickets, Genie Plus, park hoppers, or resort hotel rooms can be more expensive when park demand is at its peak. If you're planning a trip soon, there are some things to keep in mind when it comes to those price increases. First, buy those theme park tickets and hotel rooms sooner rather than later. We've seen prices increase a few months ahead of travel dates in the past, and once you've purchased a ticket or room at a price you're more comfortable with, that's your set in stone price no matter what happens, even if prices spike up before you go. Second, be aware of when food price increases happen. Historically, food price increases happen most often in the beginning of the year around January, February, or towards the end of the year around October. If you're traveling during those times, you might need to budget a little bit extra just in case. Trust us, the extra $1 to $3 per item adds up fast. And third, don't sleep on those special offers, deals, and discounts over on the Disney World website, because they've released some good savings opportunities lately, better than we've seen in a long time. For example, Disney Plus subscribers can get that free dining plan with a 4-day, 4-night vacation package purchase for most nights from July 1st to September 30th, though you may be able to apply this deal to longer stays too, depending on the details of your trip. Kids ages 3 to 9 can get half off theme park tickets and dining plans with the purchase of a non-discounted 4-day, 4-night package for most nights from March 3rd to March 24th and April 7th to June 30th. And annual pass holders can save up to 35% on rooms at select Disney World hotels for the beginning of the year, as well as certain dates throughout the spring and summer seasons too. Just be sure to read up on the details of each of these discounts and the small print before completely relying on them. And make sure to book them quickly if you want to use them, because they are limited to only a certain number of guests and they do sell out. There are more Disney discounts listed on the site currently and still probably more discounts to come. But if you want to make sure you never miss out on those recent Disney World savings opportunities, we always let our DFB newsletter subscribers know when we see more special offers appear throughout the year. And we let them know when things are about to run out. So make sure to subscribe to our free newsletter, and we'll make sure to keep hitting you up with the latest Disney 411. I'll add our newsletter link down in the description for you, just in case you want in on all the fun. Now, our next change that we want to talk about is character meals. Not all of them have come back. Don't be fooled. It may look like all of Disney World's character dining experiences are back to normal, but there are still some character restaurants that Disney's left hanging, and we're honestly not sure what's going on with them. 1900 Park Fare over at Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa used to be a buffet with different Disney character experiences depending on when you chose to dine. The supercalifragilistic breakfast would give you the chance to meet characters like Mary Poppins, Alice in Wonderland, Mad Hatter, while Cinderella's Happily Ever After dinner gave you the chance to meet Cindy, Prince Charming, Lady Tremaine, and the Royal Pain stepsisters, Anastasia and Drizella. But after the 2020 closures, Grand Floridian has been working on renovating and updating literally everything else in this resort except for 1900 Park Fare. I mean, maybe they're updating it. We have no idea. And they've also kept us in the dark about whether or not the Garden View tea room would ever return to us as well. So far, we've got a big old goose egg for either answer. So I guess it's a good thing that the Cake Bake Shop over at Disney's Boardwalk Inn is opening up soon, because that way we can still get our tea party fix in the future. Speaking of the Boardwalk Inn, you might have forgotten about this, but the Boardwalk's Italian-inspired restaurant, Trattoria Al Forno, used to have a Bon Voyage adventure breakfast where you could meet Disney couples like Rapunzel and Flynn Rider and Ariel and Prince Eric. While you can still eat breakfast at this restaurant, the characters haven't returned. And at this point, I'm not sure they ever will, but Disney surprised me before and they could again. Fortunately, all the other character dining experiences of Disney World have come back. And we even have a video highlighting our all-time favorite character meals, which you should totally check out after this. But we do have fewer face character options than we do fur character nowadays. That being said, if you want to book a meal that does have face characters that you can meet, your best options are Cinderella's Royal Table, featuring Disney princesses, Akershus Royal Banquet Hall, also featuring princesses, and Dinner at Artist Point, storybook dining with Snow White and Grumpy and Dopey and the Evil Queen over at Disney's Wilderness Lodge. So since we're already talking about suspicious restaurant closures and changes, let's talk about the section of Disney World that has been hit the hardest when it comes to these kinds of situations. The Morocco Pavilion over in Epcot. So the Morocco Pavilion is gorgeous and intricate when it comes to its overall outer facade, but upon further inspection, this World Showcase country has turned into quite a ghost town. Before 2020, Morocco had some of the best dining options park-wide. Restaurant Marrakesh used to be a table service that served unique Moroccan dishes alongside fun entertainment like belly dancers and live musicians. And the Morocco quick service Tangerine Cafe was long touted as one of the best quick services in Epcot. It served Mediterranean eats in a cafeteria style with options like lamb and chicken platters, tangerine couscous salad, hummus, and tabbouleh. Today, Restaurant Marrakesh is currently not a restaurant anymore. It's often just used as a place where guests can stop and cool down, specifically during the food and wine festivals. And while it appears like the Tangerine Cafe is open for business, it's actually just being used as an extra festival booth. Its original quick service offerings are nowhere to be found, and you tend to just get the same menu here for every festival. But it's not really anywhere close to its former self. Now, what's going on? Well, to get to the bottom of this, we have to go back to when Morocco first entered the World Showcase back in 1984. The Morocco Pavilion was originally funded, designed, and overseen by the Kingdom of Morocco to make sure their country was represented in a way that was as authentic as possible. Ever since, the pavilion's restaurants, stores, and exhibits had been supervised by an independent operating participant, and not by Disney directly. This meant Disney couldn't really sell branded Morocco-themed product with Mickey Mouse slapped across the front like you typically find in some other Epcot countries. By the end of 2020, however, that third party made a mutual agreement with Disney to transition operations of the Morocco Pavilion over to Disney. So now the ball is in Disney's court with what happens next, and we're still waiting to see what Disney does with this ball, because at the moment, it's a whole lot of nothing. Thankfully, there are still a few things to do inside the Morocco Pavilion, so you don't have to totally skip out on it during your next trip. Spice Road Table Restaurant, for example, is still open and ready to serve tapas and drinks to guests, and the Oasis Sweets and Sips has on-the-go pastries and cocktails that are worth a try if you're looking for a snack that's different and affordable. There's also a little open shop here for you to purchase a trinket or two, no Mickey Mouse across it though, and a quick walk-through gallery that showcases two modern-day Morocco competitions, Marathon of the Sands and Rally of the Gazelles. Princess Jasmine also frequently does meet and greets here, typically up until 3 p.m., though you can find out more precise meet and greet times on your My Disney Experience app. But other than that, you can find us twiddling our thumbs and just absolutely loving the gorgeousness of the pavilion, but not really doing much in it. Now, this next one is kind of funny and kind of weird and kind of nostalgic. Close your eyes. When I tell you to think of Disney World, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? More than likely, the majority of you are probably thinking of Cinderella Castle, which makes sense. Disney uses Cinderella Castle as not just the main emblem of Magic Kingdom, but as the emblem of the whole Disney World Resort area. And as beautiful as this castle is, there have been times Disney's tried to fix something that isn't really broken, to the joy of some and the dismay of many others. Take a trip back in time with me, starting at Magic Kingdom's 25th anniversary. For this anniversary, Cinderella Castle was transformed into a giant pink cake. Remember that? This kind of reminds me of that sloppy birthday cake that the fairies made for Aurora during the animated Sleeping Beauty film. It was a mess, but an enjoyable mess. A heartfelt one that meant well, but a mess regardless. And this wasn't the only major messy makeover the castle experienced during its life. It gets worse. Remember on November 16th, 2004, that rapscallion 626 TP'd the castle and graffitied it with the word Stitch is King to promote Magic Kingdom's release of the now-defunct Tomorrowland experience, Stitch's Great Escape? For locals and frequent park visitors, these castle changes were a blast and hilarious. So why doesn't Disney do promotions like this as often as they used to? Well, let's reverse the roles for a minute. Let's say you're heading to a once-in-a-lifetime Disney trip over in Hong Kong or Paris or Shanghai or Tokyo. And you're excited to finally see their castles for the first time and get that full goosebump, teary-eyed moment. Now imagine you enter into their main streets only to be greeted with a really tacky, TP'd and graffitied castle. Pretty heartbreaking, right? So yeah, Disney's not as big on doing these Cinderella Castle promotions as they used to be for the sake of their out-of-town guests, which is probably for the best. That being said, Magic Kingdom hasn't exactly left Cinderella Castle alone by any means. Remember that other makeover that Cinderella Castle had back in February 2020? This one's been sticking around for longer than some folks thought it would. While many people figured Cinderella Castle's paint makeover from the castle's signature white to a baby pink was in honor of Disney's 50th anniversary, that's actually not entirely true. The paint makeover was originally intended to celebrate Cinderella's 70th anniversary, but because of the pandemic closure, the makeover had to be put on pause. When Imagineers were able to get back to work, the paint job took Disney a year to complete, which ended up being around the same time that the 50th anniversary celebration was getting ready to kick off. Even after the 50th anniversary wrapped up on March 31st, 2022, there have been no plans announced to change the paint back to its original color. And some folks enjoy the fresh pink look. but others miss that iconic white and blue look that the castle used to don, which seems better matched to the castle she met Prince Charming in during her animated film. But that being said, Cindy's castle is quite a pretty castle to get a picture with during your trip, and not a square of toilet paper in sight. Ooh, this is one for the feels. Let's talk about Streetmosphere. Over the past few years, you may have noticed a significant decrease in the amount of entertainment that happens around you in Disney World, and that's because Disney's pulled back, like way back, on their Streetmosphere performers ever since the pandemic closures. Streetmosphere is kind of a Disney word for street atmosphere. Basically, these are the musicians, the actors, the dancers that don't just set up shop in one spot, but instead they walk around the streets of the parks performing their entertainment for fans to enjoy. This includes performers like the Dapper Dans in Magic Kingdom and Cora Tinga Tinga in Animal Kingdom. But once again, Disney ended up having to lay off a lot of their talent during the 2020 closures, and a lot of that talent is still missing in the parks today. For instance, there used to be this charming little show in Liberty Square called The Muppets Present, Great Moments in American History. It was a 10-minute show that would happen sporadically throughout the day, and the Muppets would retell hilarious versions of classic American history tales. Its daily run lasted from 2016 to 2019, with little seasonal performances popping up here and there before 2020. But we haven't seen it since 2020, and that's not the only Streetmosphere we've been aching to see again. The Citizens of Hollywood and Hollywood Studios and Citizens of Main Street in Magic Kingdom used to be a colorful cast of performers who'd sing and dance, joke around, and help create the happy-go-lucky mood as soon as you entered the park. Alas, the last time we got to see any of these citizens was during a Run Disney race in early 2022, when the Citizens of Hollywood made a brief yet very impactful appearance to help cheer on runners in Hollywood Studios. So we had a glimmer of hope that this merry band of performers would return soon, only for that hope to be crushed later on when we realized that the information for the citizen performers had been removed completely from the Disney World website. So doesn't look like these folks are coming back anytime soon, which is really unfortunate. But why? Why isn't Disney scrambling to figure out how to get these cast members hired back on to brighten up their parks again? Well, not to be a negative Nelly or anything, but this more than likely isn't that big of a priority for Disney right now. Streetmosphere entertainment doesn't really come with the ability for an upcharge, so that inability to bring in additional revenue in accompaniment with this entertainment might be a factor under consideration here. Fortunately, live entertainment still lives on in other areas of the parks. Like I mentioned before, Streetmosphere like the Dapper Dans is still alive and well. While several stage performances property-wide also feature live talent. Some performances are even Broadway-level quality, such as, but not limited to, Finding Nemo, The Big Blue and Beyond in Animal Kingdom, and Beauty and the Beast live on stage in Hollywood Studios. And another live stage show is getting ready to open up this year in Hollywood Studios as well, called The Little Mermaid, a musical adventure, which is slated to start welcoming guests under the sea this fall. But main stage shows aside, Streetmosphere really does add value to the park experience. It helps guests feel as though they've got more to do that's already included with their park ticket purchase, and it keeps them busy in one area of the park to help draw them away from other areas that may be more packed or crowded. So I don't know, I'm rooting for more Streetmosphere to return in the future, but for now you can track down what's there by checking the Times Guide via your My Disney Experience app. Now, this is a worst change that I'm so glad is starting to change back. The way Disney uses technology is nothing short of impressive, and as technology progresses, of course, Disney's going to experiment with new ways to bring their beloved characters to life. But what's initially impressive may not be as impressive over time. Okay, I'll stop beating around the bush. I'm talking about rear projection mapping. Rear projection mapping can be found on a few Disney World attractions. You'll see it on the Dwarfs in Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, the Buzz Lightyear in the queue on Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, most of the figures in Frozen Ever After in Epcot, and the characters on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Now, I'm not here to bash projection mapping, because if it weren't for this technology, we wouldn't have those mind-blowing projections on Cinderella Castle each night during Happily Ever After. But rear projection mapping is starting to feel really outdated nowadays. This is different from standard projection mapping because it comes from inside an animatronic's head. So instead of just sculpting an animatronic face, there's a projector inside of Doc and Elsa and all the other rear projected characters, which creates a face digitally. This effect allows characters to have dynamic facial expressions that appear to respond to their surrounding environment. It's more like you are animating the character and then projecting it onto their face instead of having to make their face do stuff. While this sounds really cool at first, this type of technology still dulls in comparison to those full-blown animatronics that can pull off similar emotional complexity without the use of screens. And Disney has actually proved that themselves recently with Frozen Ever After in Hong Kong. Now, while Frozen Ever After opened in Epcot in 2016 with the rear projections, the same ride opened in Hong Kong Disneyland just this past year with updated Frozen animatronic characters and no projected faces. You can also see this over in Tokyo, by the way, in that Beauty and the Beast attraction. That's truly amazing. And come on, you put these guys side by side and tell me which one is clearly more impressive. You can tell there's been a lot of care and consideration put into these animatronics over in Hong Kong and in Tokyo, and while yes, the animatronics in Epcot were carefully crafted too, you can tell Disney wanted to open this ride pretty quickly to start further capitalizing on Frozen's success. And the projected faces allowed them to do that. No extra face sculpting necessary. Not to mention, if an animatronic malfunctions with a rear projected face, the results are a lot more unsettling than just a typical powered-down animatronic figure. Instead, you might be greeted with a completely faceless character or an input screen or something that pulls you out of the story in a harsh way. In the end, the rides where Disney uses rear projection mapping aren't bad by any means, unless you're also upset with the new Mickey Mouse cartoon designs in Runaway Railway, but that has less to do with technology and more to do with how much I don't like those new character models. Like, what happened to Goofy? Why does it look like he's been left in a dumpster for a week straight? And where are his pants? Okay, I am passionate about this, but I understand that we're talking about technology right now. So let's go back to that and maybe we'll talk about Goofy's pants another time. I think probably the best use of projection mapping, rear projection mapping, character-wise, happens in the Haunted Mansion, where we finally get to see Hatbox Ghost lose his head in the endless hallway, as well as watch the famous singing busts in the graveyard scene, since those projected faces are of the legendary singers who recorded Grim Grinning Ghosts for us to enjoy for generation after generation. In general, screen technology has its place in the parks, but it all depends on how you use it. If it's to bring special effects to life, great, but if it's being used to cut corners instead of fully fleshing out an animatronic, then it starts to feel sort of cheap rather than impressive. Luckily, it seems Disney's turning away from these projected face animatronics for their future attractions, even for the new Tiana's Bayou Adventure, slated to open this year in both Disneyland and Disney World. Recently, Disney announced that there will be several Tiana audio animatronics used throughout the rides, and each of them will be state-of-the-art, just like the Annas and Elsas you'll find in Hong Kong's version of Frozen Ever After. Score. And we've made it to my, favorite, least favorite one of our worst changes. This may be my personal beef with Disney's contemporary resort, but maybe some of y'all out there agree with my subjective stance, and I fully own this. This is my humble opinion on this one, because Disney's contemporary resort used to be my favorite hotel, and now I don't even want to stay there anymore. So back in the good old days, the rooms at the Contemporary were a little outdated, but classy. They had marble-tiled bathrooms, sleek patterns and artwork on the beds and walls, and an overall atmosphere that just better fit the mood of the resort. And then in 2021, we suddenly get the Incredibles. Incredibles theming everywhere. Incredibles on the pillows, Incredibles on the walls, Incredibles in the closet. And these main tower room renovations eventually spread over to the Contemporary's garden wing rooms too. You can't hide from Jack Jack. Don't think of me as an Incredibles hater. The movie's a lot of fun, and I'm all for a Num Num cookie, but the theming here makes not a whole lot of sense. Perhaps if there were new Incredibles suites over at, say, Art of Animation, this would be an easier pill to swallow. Or even if there was a totally new resort themed around heroes or Pixar characters or superpowered families, then I'd be down with this. But all the Incredibles theming and what's supposed to be a classic modern resort that celebrates the traditional side of Disney just kind of feels it doesn't fit. So why did Disney do it? Well, intellectual property, that's why. IPs are Disney's franchises and characters featured in their films and TV shows. While Disney's always used IPs inside their parks to help gain traction, they've always had a lot of original theme park only storylines too, like Haunted Mansion, Jungle Cruise, Tiki Room, etc. Nowadays, Disney's gone full steam ahead with those IPs, and that's because they don't have to take the extra time to create hype and excitement around a whole new storyline. The story and excitement are already built in thanks to the films that families have more than likely already seen and loved. In fact, Disney goes so far as to use their data from their Disney Plus service to also figure out what they're going to create in the parks next. According to former Disney CFO Christine McCarthy, Disney can look at its movies on Disney Plus and see how many people are watching a certain film, and if a certain film is being watched multiple times. And this data helps predict the popularity of new IP-inspired experiences or attractions in the parks. In the case of the Contemporary and the Disney hotels too. Not all of Disney's most recent resort renovations have made zero sense. Honestly, the incorporation of Moana into the Polynesian Village rooms is seamless and it's beautiful. The Bambi Chippendale woodland creatures populating the Wilderness Lodge rooms fits like a glove, and of course you know I love those new Mary Poppins rooms at Grand Floridian. But when Disney tries to shoehorn in IPs where they don't match the overall vibe, it feels kind of forced. It's like taking a greeting card and crossing out the happy birthday to write happy anniversary. It serves the purpose you need it to, but it doesn't feel good. That being said, let me set my judgment aside for a moment to talk about the positives of those Incredibles rooms, because I know a lot of you love them. So if you've got a superhero enthusiast in the family or someone who's part of the Incredibles fan club, then they're more than likely not going to care about how the theming of these rooms doesn't mesh with the rest of the hotel. So don't skip out on these room reservations just because of my personal feelings toward them. If it makes you happy, then I'm happy. But personally, I miss the old rooms. I really, really do. Not that I'm staying in the Contemporary all that much, but when I do, I like them. So Disney World is constantly changing, and many times we can get behind the changes being made. A lot of them make sense. But Disney's not perfect, and it's a-okay to admit that even as a fan of the parks. After all, agreeing with everything Disney does is not synonymous with having a good vacation. Don't forget that. Now that we've talked about some of the changes and given you tips to get around those changes if it's something that you're not liking, it's time for you to move forward with all the positive trip planning. We've got those free Disney World planning worksheets ready to send your way anytime you want them over at disneyfoodblog.com/disneyplans. And I'm also super interested in your thoughts on all of these changes in the comments. Let me know if you liked or disliked these changes, if you thought Disney was making good choices, or if you wish they had made other choices. Again, there's pros and cons to a lot of these, and so we can be really thoughtful in how we talk and think about them. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.